Tony, let's talk about traveling over like Sonia mentioned earlier, traveling over these frozen lakes and the dangers that can entail. Now, in this documentary, there was none of that, but Kenny Omega tells a great story about how the ice is cracking and the van is falling. Talk about some of those times over the years, not just necessarily on this documentary, but over the last 30 years or 40 years of the dangers of traveling across frozen lakes. Have you ever had any really close calls, Tony?
All kinds, my friend. I've seen trucks going right underneath the lake with people inside, because sometimes the weather changes up there, and all of a sudden it's 40 below, and all of a sudden it's 10 above. Now what are you going to do? You're on ice. The ice will melt, and very dangerous. And I will say this: if you do not know exactly how to travel on those ice roads, you'll never come back. Down you go with the fish, they say, right? You know what I'm saying? And it's very dangerous. And I believe that's why we call the Death Tour. Not because people die. People die all over the world, right? Every day. It's because, like I said, if you don't know exactly where you're driving or where you're going, that's why I believe it's called the Death Tour. You can die up there, really. But, we're still here.
The first day of the tour, before we actually set off onto the road, Sonia gave me a little bracelet that had a window breaker on it. She's like, "This is in case we fall through the ice." One of those... I was like, "Oh my god!" That's what it really set in of how real it was. She's like, "This is to break the window if we fall through the ice."
So, Tony, you mentioned something about knowing how to drive, and how do you know where to go on these frozen lakes? Is there a certain pattern that you have to follow?
Elephant.
Well, you know what? Many years ago was only one road to get there. But today they have different junctions. They started to build other roads junctions to the main one, right? Now, if you take the wrong one, if you don't know exactly where you're going, I know where I've been going. I've been going there for over 50 years. I know that's the wrong way, so I don't go there. This is the right way, and I keep going, right? But if you take the wrong road, you're going to run out of gas. Who's going to help you up there? Nobody.
Right.
So therefore, you got to know exactly what you're doing. I know some people that in Ontario, really, promoters, local idiots. That's what I call them, because they don't know what the hell they're doing. You know what I'm saying? They let four guys go because they want to get out of there after they finish their tour. So they've never been on ice road before. So they're pushing the gas on those ice roads, but they came to the end of the story. The lake separated from the ground. So what happens? Down they go. So the guys in the back seat, they hit their heads on the roof. They stayed there for 4 hours. One guy had 17 stitches. What saved them was those guys that cleaned support the ice roads, seen them, and that's what saved their lives.
Wow. It could be
it happened about maybe 5-6 years ago. But the promoter didn't give a hell. Yeah, okay, you finish. Go if you want to. That was me. No bloody way you're going to move until you got to stay all together as a team. Stuff can happen.
I remember after watching the first edit, Stefan, we were talking about different thoughts and ideas. And I said, we have to see a little bit more Tony Condello. This guy's such a character. We have to describe who he is a little bit. How was it working with Tony? And every time he comes on screen, something funny happens. It's just how he is. That cocksucker. I haven't heard anybody use that term in 20 years, and he used it 4 times in the movie.
You notice I haven't been swearing a word. Okay, I'm trying to be nice.
You've been very good.
But the only guy that can swear a lot is me. Stefan knows about that.
You're very professional today, Tony. But let's talk about him as a character on the movie, Stefan.
I mean, he was great for sure. The minute we met him, we knew he was going to be a character. His the lore around him. I mean, his contribution to wrestling, and then him as a character. It was just there was no question we had to kind of keep a camera on Tony at most times, or at least an ear open for him. And every time we did, it paid off. I mean, we could make 2, maybe 3 sequels based on the footage that we couldn't fit into this film. One of it just on Tony. But no, you know what? At making a documentary, you get, just to have one guy like Tony is a blessing. But we had 5. I mean, everyone on the film was an equally amazing character, which was which has got to be I mean, they're all professional performers, but they're each deserved their own film about them alone, and we had to narrow it down. But Tony for sure was at the center of it.
Yeah,
I'm
Tony.
excited to see the B reel.
Yeah.
All the stuff that like couldn't be shown on TV.
Well, Tony's what we call in the native community a shoom, and that's like the cute version of a grandpa in our language. Like, and so because I had researched Tony before we went on the tour and before I met him, and I was expecting like a big fat Italian like mafia guy, and then when I met him, I'm like, oh, he's a grandpa. I like that. Like, and so like I really loved how like because Tony has this presence that can sometimes be very like seems mean and stuff, but I love the way he talked to people in the communities and how people treated him like basically like Elvis. Like people were treating him like he was a chief, and it was very on like it was so cool to see because Tony's death tour is the only thing that comes up there that is not organized by the community. Like they don't put it on themselves, and I think a lot of these communities appreciates that he comes back a year after year. And so it was something that was really eye-opening for me because I had been so worried because I had grown up in that area of carnies and like wrestling when it was all a boys club. And Tony really changed that for me. Tony and Massive. So it like really turned my mind around about like how hard it was to be a girl in this business.
Tony, you're very it's very important to you to go into the communities. You do. There's a lot of scenes of you putting together like talking with the kids about drugs and gangs and alcohol and all that sort of stuff. Do you do that? Is that something that's very important to you when you go up to the reserves to spread that message?
Yes, it is very, very important because I give my word to Phil Fontaine those days. I kept my word up to date over 50 years. When we have the opportunity, we talk to the kids. Massive and Sage here, they're very well spoken to the kids. Massive knows all about it. One guy talks about drugs, another one about alcohol, gang related and so forth, suicidal and all that stuff. And like I said, I kept my word up to date and I still do it while I can.